Don't tell me when it's live.
Okay. You're starting early.
No, the agenda was 5:30.
Oh,
So we're starting.
Starting on
We're
time.
starting on time. Actually, we were 2 minutes late.
Thank you.
okay, you are now
We good?
live.
Okay. All right, Amy, why don't you, well, let me go to item 2, adjustments to the agenda. I want to take up, I have 3 adjustments to add, and I want to take up items 6A and B, which are 2 new hires. So just the adjustments that I want to add to are the tennis court grant, ACO resignation, and health insurance buyout request. Terry, do you have anything else?
I just want to talk about the flag at the town landing.
Okay, and Walter, you have anything? Nope. Jeff, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Any adjustments? Okay. So Amy, let's start with you. You want to introduce your proposed new hire?
Hi, Nick should be there. Nick Martin would like to be hired as a driver in South Thomaston. He's been driving the ambulance in Thomaston for a while, and he can explain and tell you his background if you would like, Nick.
Go ahead. Just briefly tell us about a little bit about yourself.
I've worked for a Christian fire for on and off for 15, 20 years.
Okay.
When I was high school. Done the Fire 1-2 program. I got hired on with Thompson Fire, been there for almost 3 years. Want to try something different, so I approached Amy for driving for Thompson, and I've been there for over a year.
Okay. And are you working towards a certification, or are you
No,
just at this,
something to,
just the point, just a driver at this
just a
point?
driver.
Okay. Jeff, Walter? Questions?
What amount of time would you anticipate putting in for us?
I probably start sometime in January when my commercial fishing is done for the year. I can work 2-3 days a week if it's warm, wherever Amy can fit me in. So,
Okay. Jeff, any questions?
Nope, no questions for me.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the hire of Nick Martin as a driver for the ambulance service as recommended by the ambulance director?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Say further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter, aye. John, aye. Nick, you're all set.
thank you.
Thank you, Amy. We'll
Happy
see you next
holidays.
meeting. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Brian, we're gonna consider your proposed new hire, Carlton Wilson. You wanna introduce it?
This is Carl Wilson, lives in town.
Winslow.
Oh, I'm sorry, it does say.
That's all right, I think all works.
These glasses fog up.
Okay.
I'll let him introduce himself and
Okay,
Yeah, my wife and I are residents of South Thomaston. We live at 59 Elm Street, across from the Oyster Farm. And we've owned a home here since 2006 and moved up here in 2016. Our son has gone off to school, so we have a little bit more time on our hands now. And I'm 50 years old. I work for Maritime Energy as an energy advisor. And on the road a fair amount, which can help to respond to calls if need be. And enjoy sailing and there's a few animals up at our place that we tend to. Just looking to contribute to the community. I did firefighting probably 30 years ago. So it's been a while. I know a lot's changed. Have a perfect driving record and clean background check, and I've been fully vaccinated and just want to help out where I can on the fire department.
great. Questions?
is Catherine your wife?
Yeah. How do you know her?
She was a big wheel in the Little League.
Yes, 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 yep, that's her.
Jeff? Any question?
You say you've got firefighting experience from 30 years ago? Are
Yeah.
you planning to get your fire 1 and 2?
Yes, I can work towards that.
Okay.
Okay, so what actually is the position we're hiring?
It'd be for a firefighter,
Firefighter, okay.
probation for 6 months.
Yeah.
And training as he wants to do as we can.
Yeah. But the position itself is firefighter.
Just firefighter.
So is there a motion to approve the hiring of recommendation of the fire chief or Carlton Winslow as a firefighter? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John, I. Okay. We're good to go.
Thanks,
Welcome,
fellas.
welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for,
Have great holidays
You
and
can be
then hit the
dismissed.
ground running.
you can be dismissed.
Thank you.
I said to Brian, I tried to get you out of here.
Very well.
Huh?
Very well, thank you very much. Been here all day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Let them in.
Okay, great, thanks.
Can you tell me who's on at this point?
We have Mike, Roulette,
Yeah, okay.
Jeff, David Elmo, Cliff Pasco, Andra, Lori Frito, Julia. And that's it.
Okay, so Mark Willett from Axiom is here. So we're gonna take that up out of order as well, because he has another meeting to go to, and then we're hoping to get to Andrew at 6:30 or a little bit before maybe. So Walter, you requested this, so why don't I let you introduce it and
Okay, well, Mark is the CEO of Axiom, which has been doing the broadband feasibility studies for the Mid-Coast Internet Development Coalition and the corporation. And so they will be doing the feasibility study for us. And this is kind of kickoff meeting. I've asked Mark to come in and take us through first what happens, then what happens in terms of the study, and also what, if any, data he needs from us. Who does he then engage with? So Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about Axiom, but I don't think we need the full corporate history because we know it a little bit, but take us through what a feasibility study looks like and what the end work product is going to look like.
Good, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So this is the first time I'm meeting a lot of you, so I'm happy to take questions or talk with people individually after later this week or anytime on anything that I say tonight. Bottom line, as you mentioned, Walter, Axiom was hired by the Mid-Coast Coalition to do feasibility studies for what was called at the time, it still is called, the 4 core communities of Camden, Rockland, Rockport, and Thomaston. And then at a reduced rate, they asked us to provide services to some, I don't know if satellite communities is the way to call it, but communities outside of those 4 communities that I just mentioned, those included Union, Cushing, and Owl's Head. And then later on, somebody, whether it was you, Walter, or somebody else from South Thomaston, said we would like to be included in the feasibility study work that Axiom is doing. And so what you will get from Axiom is a planning document that includes the cost of putting fiber optic network throughout your community that would serve every home, potentially serve every home. There would also be a section on fiber optics and the technology aspects of fiber optics and why fiber optics is the choice that we would like you to consider versus vis-a-vis other choices that are available to you with your incumbent providers. We'd also include some mapping to help you understand where the fiber would go, a financial model that would show you a five-year pro forma of revenue and expenses to help you understand the feasibility of a project should you decide to move forward in the future. And then a little bit about municipally owned versus not municipally owned networks and what the pros and cons of each of those different approaches are. And last, probably a section in there about what grants may or may not be available to you as a community should you decide to move forward over the next whatever amount of time. I'm hoping to complete the work by the end of the year. I'm pretty confident I can do that. Maybe early January, but likely the end of the year. And that would come to you in a paper and electronic format, and you would get it. So from there, we are open to being part of your ongoing broadband committee meetings as you need be. We're happy to do presentations beyond the report once it's delivered to you. And we're also happy to consider any other goals you as a community might have and whether or not we would tweak the document or change the document to better fit what might be a different type of solution. So for example, if you said to me, we'd like a section on putting up public Wi-Fi in the downtown, I'm just making this up a little bit, but if you would like that, we would adjust the final document and include that information. If you said to us, we only want to serve people along these 25 roads, not these other people over here, we can work with you on what that would look like and what that costing would look like. So we have a lot of flexibility in the way we do our work, and we want to be as responsive as we can to the town within reason. In helping you understand what your choices are moving forward and give you a good basis to be able to take some next steps, some action items beyond what we're going to provide in the document. So we're a pretty good partner, meaning we're easy to get along with, relatively speaking. I hope you'll find us that way, and pretty flexible. And I'm happy to answer questions tonight or specific questions. And happy to talk with you about, what this all means, any of the details. I can get into much more detail if you'd like about what we're going to produce. I'm a little unset. So you asked one last thing. Sorry, Walter. One last thing that you mentioned that is a little unsettled at the moment, which is what do we need from the town? And if it was possible, I would love to know how many homes are in town, if you have that count, or something close to it. And I will go get that data. I will have E911 data, but I'd like to compare it to the town's numbers of taxable properties. And do those properties have a home or residence on them? Secondly, it would be nice to know, and you may not know this, but it would be interesting to know if you have a sense of how many seasonal people you have in town, people who have second homes in your community. That would be good to know because I use that in my modeling. Or I can just do an intelligent guess because I know I've worked with communities your size before, and I kind of know generally what the seasonal populations look like. But if you had information on that, that would be very helpful. And third, if you knew of any place that does not have Spectrum service in your community, or if you've spoken to Spectrum in the past and they've given you a map of their coverage, no matter how inaccurate you might think it is, that would be interesting to me to know and to have. Those are the three things that would be helpful from the town's perspective. And then in the future, it would be very good to be able to do a little bit of work and letting people know that they should take speed tests on the main Broadband Coalition's website, so that we could get a sense of people's in town's service, what they're getting at their home. And it's a very simple, it takes about a minute and a half to do online. And maybe some of your community has already done that. I haven't looked yet to look at the data yet on the public website. Yeah. But that's available. That would be interesting too, but that can come later. And so that's that. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. It's 6:10, and I don't want to go too long because I could talk about broadband forever. I'd rather take questions, or if you want me to talk a little bit more deeply about any of these topics, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, so I want to introduce Terry, Terry Baines, who's our town administrator. And I know that she has the spectrum coverage map and can send that to you. And I'll have her answer the two questions about data, the other data that you asked, which is the number of households and anything that we know about seasonal residents.
We certainly would have the number of people that have homes that are exempt. That'd be a good place to start.
Yep.
Okay.
Penny, we're getting strange. I don't know if it's you or.
Well, we gathered Lynn, Pam downstairs, Debbie Thomas, and Tina and Leslie.
I don't know. All I'm seeing is Julia's iPhone on the screen here.
This is the view problem.
I can mute her.
You don't have to mute her.
It's a visual. Mark, we apologize, having technical difficulties here.
Don't apologize. I've done enough Zoom meetings over the last year to know that these things happen all the time. So no worries at all.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, Mark, if it's okay with you and John, is Cliff, Lynn, and Ann, who are our broadband committee, are on this call. I'd like to give them first shot at questions.
That's fine by me.
You want to go back to the gallery view?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I'll just start off, Mark, and thanks very much for that presentation. What I would like to know in terms of the study is, and I appreciate what you said about the deliverable. At what level of granularity are you going to get individual either units or small communities within our town, preferences, desires, needs, etc.? I mean, I understand the symmetry of fiber optic and the sort of base ability of it to provide high speed, symmetrical high speed, but different communities, different areas and different people will have different needs. And I wonder whether that is going to be part of the study, or do you feel like it's going to be more of a global one whereby you paint a big picture as to what the town looks like?
But could you introduce yourself? There's a lot of people watching here that aren't familiar. If you could just introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Yeah, my name is Clifford Dashow, and I'm a full-time resident living on Sprucehead Island, although I don't happen to be there right now.
And you're on our technology committee.
I am on the technology committee, that is in fact.
Thank you. And if anybody else who speaks could introduce themselves, that'd be great. Okay, Mark, sorry.
No worries, no worries. So there are a couple of ways to approach your question. What I thought was, so tell me if I'm incorrect, Cliff, when I describe what I'm going to say next. Initially, the reason South Thomaston came to me was through the Mid-Coast Coalition. And that Mid-Coast Coalition, in talking with communities, set up or described a particular set of aspirations or a particular set of criteria that they wanted the communities they're working with to be part of, to be included about. So there was a group of things that they said, we all agree with this approach. And one of those was fiber optics. So, and delivering at least 100 over 100, I think, is in the, in fiber optics. So when you think about whether a part of the community is getting a different type of solution or a different sense because of they have different connectivity needs, it's hard for me to bet. It would be good to know what that would look like in your mind, because in my mind, the way we are approaching this would be a fiber optic service that would give equal access, meaning every place in the town would be able, every community member, every home would be able to get the same level of service as everybody else. So if that's different, or if you're looking, and then let me back up a little bit more from there. We know a lot about DSL service because we have DSL in our network. Not very good DSL, but we have it. And we grew up as a wireless company, so we know a lot about wireless. So if you're thinking about other types of solutions other than fiber, we can help describe those and help talk to you about it. But I don't know what that means from an on the ground standpoint vis-a-vis one part of the village, a village within your community versus another area of your community. I'm not sure how you'd want to approach that. I'm all ears, happy to listen to whatever it is you'd like to see, but our objective has been to give you a real global, here's what a fiber solution looks like, here's what it costs, here's how that solution stacks up against the revenues that would be derived from subscribers, and here's how that all looks to the state if we're trying to achieve a grant or some other money to bring the cost of the project down. That's basically what I'm trying to give you.
Thanks, Mark. Just a quick follow-up, and in that you are correct, I believe, in your assessment, as that was the promise of the coalition, which is that it was going to be fiber to every home, and it was going to be symmetrical. And I believe the minimum standard was going to be 100 up, 100 down. There are some parts of our community that are currently not served. And one of the most important part of the promises of the coalition was not only equal access, that is the potential to access the service, but also affordability. That is, there are regardless, there are going to be some parts of the town and some people who are more able to shoulder the burden of payment than others. And so, in some sense, I would appreciate if the study addresses those issues of equity, because that's really quite important.
Gotcha. So fair enough. Thank you for saying that. So we have had experience in setting up affordability funds, where particular members of the community could access funds to bring the cost down to allow them to have access. That is evolving because the federal infrastructure, or I can't even pronounce it correctly, the Buy Better Back, whatever the heck they call it, the infrastructure bill that just passed includes money through something called EBB, which is an affordability fund at the federal level. And that affordability fund would provide for those who qualify $30 off of whatever their bill would be. So we will have that. So in a situation where you are working with a provider, this is down the road, but in a situation where you're building a project and you are working with a provider, one of the questions you would ask that provider is, do they participate in the EBB program? Because that would allow citizens to access those monies and that reduction in cost to them. And that's really, and we, Axiom, just so you know, is currently right now in the final stage of being EBB eligible, and there are several others in Maine, several other providers who are going through that process also, or have been approved. So I do think that affordability will be will be something that needs to be addressed, and there are resources that to address, and that can be part of the study. Absolutely, 100%.
Thanks very much.
So, hi, this is Lynn Canavan, and I am also on the technology committee. So I just, when you give us the report, is it going to have the breakout also of the cost to get connected and then to stay connected? So are you going to be able to break that down as well? Will we?
Yes, well, so you will have the cost, the total cost of construction to the home, and know what that cost is. So not just the main trunk line that runs by your house, but what that drop to your home cost and what the cost of the equipment at your home is. So you would have that all included in the project breakdown, and you would have a revenue estimate based on typically 3 tiers of service: 50 over 50, 100 over 100, and then either 250 over 250 or 500 over 500. And even now I'm starting to price out gigs, a gig over a gig. So it depends on what the sensibility of the community is. But yes, you will have all of that available to you. So you'll know what the basis of all of the numbers are in the report. And it will require us to do a little homework, a little work with the committee to help you understand what all those numbers are and how they translate into the model that we use to be able to provide to you to move forward. Because ultimately, what I'm trying to do is show you, and I don't know if the numbers will work here, so I just want to be clear about that, but I've done a lot of studies, and the holy grail, what we're trying to do is get you a project that would be zero cost to taxpayer or very low cost to taxpayer, and the full amount of the construction cost would get paid for through subscription fees. That's really what I'm trying to deliver to you. So to give you a vision of how to achieve this without a lot of taxpayer dollars being spent, and how to make that happen. That's what I'm trying to do. We'll see how close I get or how well I do, because the smaller the community, the harder it is, right? Because there's less revenue. There's just not enough customers to pay for things to pay back. So I think we're going to be okay here, just understanding a little bit about your community and knowing working in communities your size previously, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think we'll get there. We'll see. We're going to do the numbers. So one of the things that will be interesting for the committee is you're going to come back and tell me, let's just say $59 is too much money for somebody to pay. And I want $39. That's perfectly fine. You want $39 for somebody. What I want to show you is how that affects the revenues to not just the internet service provider, but for the payback back to the town for the capital cost of building the service. So there needs to be a balance ultimately between the revenue and the expense. Just simple as that. It has to all work out. So we'll have to work closely together to figure out what that affordability looks like, where those numbers land, and what's feasible and achievable. It's quite a bit of work to be done, which we will do for you. And the models that we put together can be manipulated, right? So we can model different levels of service, different costs, lots of different things for you. I hope, if you like this kind of thing, I hope we have a little fun together, because it will be kind of fun to go through it and just see what's achievable for your town. And we like taking the have-nots and making them haves. So we're sort of like the Robin Hood. We like that idea. So we'd be excited to be working with you to get you what you need over through the planning grant anyway. And then show you all the providers out there. We can bring them in. We can talk to them. Whatever you need, we'll be able to manage for you as we move forward.
So quick follow-up question. As Cliff said, the intent of the project is to provide 100% access to everybody, but I imagine there's a substantial cost difference between 95% access and 100% access. It would be interesting to see what that cost differential is too, to see if perhaps there's other sources of funding for those, 5% that extraordinarily expensive to connect.
Always a good question, and always one that comes up, because you have some of your dearest neighbors who are off the grid or 2 miles down a private road. That happens in every community. There is always a few of those that are going to be ultra expensive to get service to. And the question becomes, how do we manage that in your community? So I think typically what we do in our planning, because remember, this is a pretty cost-effective plan for you, right? $5,000 from my perspective. I usually don't get up out of bed in the morning for $5,000, to tell you the truth. I've got a lot of work going on, but because the coalition and because of what you're trying to do there has intrigued me and I'm excited about it, I think it's worthy to do a good job for you. The issue will be how granular, and I think Clifford said it, how granular are we going to be? And there will be some compromises for the amount of money that we're going to have to make. And one of them may be, we're not going to go and look at every home and determine by the foot what it's going to cost to deliver service to every home. What we're going to do is create an average and say, okay, on average, a home is 150 feet from the street, and this is what it's going to cost. And yes, some homes may be 50 feet and some may be 2 miles, right, from the nearest whatever junction, pole, whatever. And on average, what generally it's going to cost to put that service in is basically what we're going to do. And then to your point, if we could get some information over time where these hard to serve homes may be and what they might look like. So for example, if there are homes that are served with underground, and there's some in your town, I'm sure, served with underground conduit, where are those homes? How big of a slice of the town has that kind of service? Are there places that don't have electrical service going to them? They're a little off the grid. They're served in a different way. They're a long way away from the nearest, utility pole, whatever. Those kinds of questions and I'll be able to answer some of those questions for you just generally. Hey, this is what it costs to do that kind of, to do Sally Mae's driveway. This is what it kind of costs. So we'll get there. It's a little complicated. Your question is, I could talk about this for 2 hours. So it's a little complicated, but we will get there. Happy to do that.
Ann, you want to, Ann?
And
Can't hear you.
Sorry, they got it.
lost your audio.
Can't hear you.
And you're
She
on
went
mute.
on mute. Yeah, she went on mute again.
There you are. You're off mute.
Oh, good. So Lynn and Cliff asked the questions I had lined up. I do want to say I'm really looking forward to reading this report and getting some real data so that we can stop just imagining and start working ahead. I'm wondering if you have or could provide us with any thoughts of how long it would take to build out this system once we decide to go ahead with it, assuming that we do that.
Yeah, I can give you a pretty good idea. Back of the napkin, pretty close, actually.
Okay.
So the biggest problem is what we call the make ready process, which is the process of getting the utility poles, creating what's by code a 24-inch space on each utility pole to put a new fiber optic cable up. And that process is controlled by Consolidated. They are the statewide pole licensee that controls that process. Even if they do not own all the poles, they control that process. And it's a painful process. And that process takes about 6 to 8 months just to do that, just to get the poles ready. From there, it's a little bit, it will go fairly quick. You're a small community. I would guess somewhere in the 3 to 4 month range to get it built out completely. So if you started today, you'd be talking about the end of next year. And every day that passes, you're going to be in 2023. So every day that passes, you're going to end up in 2023. The question is when, given where we sit today. So I would only make one other comment on that, which is there's another sort of little monkey wrench that's going on, which is it turns out, as you may recognize, everybody's building out fiber optic networks or going to be building fiber. There's a lot of federal money and just generally a lot of money on the street to do this, coupled with a stranglehold on the supply process in our great United States. So the supplies are getting scarcer and scarcer. So ordering material can take 6, 8, 10, 12 months to get that fiber optic material in. So you have to front load the ordering also. So it's a little bit of a trick now. And of course, you need to have a construction company to do the work and have them lined up for when this time comes.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, every construction company is going to be pressed for work. And so the communities I'm working with are tending to move very quickly. So Southport we're working with, Searsport we're working with. I mean, I've got a list of 10 that I'm working with that are all trying to get built before the onslaught of pressure is going to come around these projects.
Oh, thank you.
General questions from anybody else that's on the call?
Yeah. Got his hand up, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to seeing this report. I do have one piece of it though. You appear to be focusing on where we're going to go, assuming fiber optic, and we're going to go forward with that, and how much that's going to be. I'll tell you where I am right now is I don't know where we're at, and I would like to see in front of this report where we currently are. And we got a map from Spectrum. I trust it about as far as I can. Well, I could actually throw it pretty far, but because it's just a piece of paper, but I don't really have a lot of faith in that map. And right now, I don't know how many residents we have in the town or businesses that are not served or underserved. And I also am not very comfortable with what the definition of served and underserved is. Because if you look at everything the feds are putting out, especially for like eligibility of some of the funding that they're providing, the numbers are well below 100 over 100 to be served. So I would really like this report at the front of it to say, this is where you are right now. You have 20 residents that are not served at all. You have most of your town that's underserved, and you've got a portion of it that is well served with fiber optics. And I right now I have not a glimmer of what those numbers are, how that looks.
Yeah. So fair question. We will be able to provide a snapshot of where you are, and I do think that we will be able to provide some level of what you're talking about, but it will not be as complete as you might think. And the reason for that is because it's going to be hard to know exactly how many people are served or not served. It's pretty easy when somebody doesn't have service, right? Pretty easy. But when somebody has a level of service and they can't even tell you on the phone what level of service they have, right? A lot of people just don't even know. They just pay their bill every month. They don't remember what they're paying for or what they're really getting inside of their house. So Hold on one second. I apologize. I got something going on. Hang in there with in my house. Okay. Hold on one second. I'll be right back with you. Little bit of an issue. Hang in there. I got a child who's a little upset about something. Hang in there.
One of the downsides is Zoom from home.
Okay, so we'll do the best. Sorry about that. I apologize. Thank you for being patient. So we will do the best we can to give you that information. The answer really is, are you looking, Jeff, for an answer that would say, why don't we just ask Spectrum to expand to every home in our community? That's the cheap way to do this. And let's just do that. And what's wrong with Spectrum service? And I think that's a legitimate approach. I want to say that out loud to you. That's a legitimate approach. But that's not what the coalition's approach has been. So I just want to make sure, and I'm coming from the coalition's perspective. So we will have this discussion, what I just said to you, we will have this discussion because I do think it's a legitimate approach. While I'm not a big fan of Spectrum in every location, because I think they're tough and difficult to deal with. And I think that they overpromise and underdeliver, relatively speaking. I do think that when you're a small community, you should consider all options. And knowing what that scope of work looks like is important to be able to make that determination. So we'll do what we can to give you a pretty good snapshot. Fair enough? Is that okay for right now, for today anyway?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Thanks.
All right. All right.
Let's wrap this up. Mark, thank you so much. And I will resend you all the contact information for Cliff, Lynn, and my board colleagues and Terry. And you know, let's work out how you're going to engage with whom, and let's get this going.
Yep.
Yeah,
I look forward to it. Yeah, Cliff.
And just to very quickly, and I certainly will be happy to be a resource as part of the technology committee of the town. I know I'm sure Ann and Lynn will be as well.
Okay, Cliff and Ann, before you leave, the very next item is update on MI, Midcoast Inlet Development Corporation. We do have someone else scheduled for 6:30, so we can maybe briefly take that item up if you guys want to hang in there just a minute. I don't know if we really have much new information. But if anybody does, I'd be eager to hear about it. I will say that I'm a little confused, and maybe someone can help me. A couple of weeks ago, I learned from very credible sources that Thomaston and Rockland have not been accepted as members yet. They voted to join and have applied, but have not been accepted. Has anybody else heard that or aware of that?
No data.
Sounds like a no. Well, no, the last meeting I was at, I missed the last meeting because I was in the hospital. But the meeting before that, Rockland had not filled out all the paperwork that was necessary to be part of the corporation. Thomaston's news to me.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious if anybody heard that. Not that that's, incredibly important. And has anybody heard any response to our letter at all regarding the bylaws that they urged us to submit? Nothing? Okay, those are the only two questions I had. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to comment on or give us an update on. Walter, you're sort of a point person, but I know you've been sort of tied up.
Yeah, I think Lynn was at the last meeting, I believe.
Wasn't at the last one, I was at the one before.
Okay.
Last
So
one, I
we're
think,
all-
right?
We're all missing in action for the last. meeting.
Okay, so there's no critical new information that we need to be aware of anything, and I'm not trying to create time. I'm not trying to use up time here, but I just thought while we're all sitting here, it'd be an opportunity to if there was anything new. So we can move on, I guess. Thank you all. You're certainly welcome to stay on or not, as you choose. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to take up Andrew Hedrich regarding the Island Road bid package, assuming Andrew's here. Andrew, sorry, I told you it was going to be 6:30 and I didn't miss that, did I?
No, that's quite all right. I appreciate the heads up to begin with.
Yeah. So why don't you walk us briefly through the bid package that you delivered the other day? Just to let you know, we did put it out on our website. We sent it out. The fact that it was here on the listserv, we made it, let people know there's a copy available to review here in the town office. It's a fairly tight time frame because we didn't get it until Wednesday. I think it was it Wednesday or Tuesday? Tuesday. And we were closed Thursday and Friday, but we haven't had a lot of comments or anything from email or anything, and I don't think anyone's actually come in to, unless they came in this afternoon, to actually look at it. So if you want to briefly walk us through, I did review it. I'm going to have 2 comments at the end, but I'll let you walk us through just briefly, if you would.
Yeah, certainly. So as indicated, we've wrapped up the bid package. We have it at about 95% right now. What that entails is a full drawing set with all the details updated and accurate. And then we put together a 200-page project manual that essentially goes through all the specifications and requirements of the construction. We were sure to add in there the no blasting requirements regarding the ledge. So that's on the plans and it's in the spec book as an addendum to it. So it's kind of in the back as an additional item. So it's clear that there will be no blasting on this project. The outstanding items that I see we're still waiting on securing the final easements. But that being said, that should not delay us from proceeding with requesting bids from contractors. I think the timing of this project, I know we have we'll get into the dates and stuff. I want to review those with the town to see what they'd like to do. I have put some tentative dates in the project manual with the anticipation we may need to revise those. But right now we're hoping to have this packet ready to go out to contractors in the next week and a half or so. And what that would do is we'd give them about 4 weeks with the holidays coming up soon. We'd ask for bids back in January 14th, unless the town tells us they want them sooner. I know there was a first of the year thing, but again, we can discuss that. And then the town would have about a month to review that, review the bids, and then issue an award. And what I've done is I've put the construction start date as the spring of 2022 and a completion date of October 28th of 2022. But then what I've also done is I've added a clause in there that says construction must be completed 8 weeks after commencement of construction for each section and prior to the completion date. So that'll prevent them from ripping up that road in the spring and leaving it open until October. It'll give them about 8 weeks to work each one of those sections, potentially either independently or collectively. I do need to add some things to the spec book that missed my review the first time through. That's one regarding an asphalt escalator. I think we should include an asphalt escalator in the contract. It's more appealing. The long and the short of that is basically we have set prices for liquid asphalt. So we look at the set price at the time the bid was received versus the time the project is constructed. And you can do the math between those and see how much it's risen, and then you adjust the asphalt price, that percentage at the end of the day. So just it helps control that, and it helps prevent contractors from throwing some very large numbers at asphalt with the uncertainty if it's going to go up with oil prices. So it just helps keep the prices real and adjustable for contractors. And I want to put a little more information there regarding traffic control. We kind of use our generic statements in the bid book, and I want to add a little more information regarding traffic control and maintaining one-way access and providing a little more time. I think we had 1 week notice if the road's gonna be worked on, but I want to increase the timing of the notice to the residents and make sure that they reach out to emergency directors and school directors to let them know if we're gonna be down to one lane or if there needs to be a temporary short-term closure. But other than that, I think we've gone over all this information. We're avoiding a ledge. That was the critical point. We have all our permits attached to this. So like I said, the only thing missing are the easements and me doing a little more refinement on the bid packet and the final plans. But I think we're at that 95% set. As soon as the town says go, I think we should fire this out to some contractors. And typically what I like to do is I would send it out to the local contractors we work with on a regular basis. And then the town can direct everybody to the town's website if that's how you'd like to administer it through the website. We just need to be able to track whoever gets copies of that and who downloads it. So oftentimes it's best if we handle that in our office. The reason we need to track it is so if we make changes, make an addendum, we can be assured that everybody gets it. But if we're going to put it on the website, your website, we can make that work and just notify people and add some language into the bid documents to direct them to the website for addendums as they're posted. We'll send them to the town and they can be uploaded in the same manner. But yeah, then the final question I have is the bid location. If the town would like us to manage the bid, receive the bids in our office, or if you'd like to send them down to the town office. So it doesn't really matter to us. We can open the bids, read them out loud, as typical fashion. And that's all that happens in the bid opening. And then packets are handed to the town regardless to review that. So whichever you'd like to do, we can accommodate and kind of get this thing moving.
Okay, thank you.
Tom,
Yes,
Sarah here says it's hand up.
okay, I'm gonna have the selectmen discuss this first and then we'll open it up for the public. So Jeff, any questions or comments?
I do have a couple of questions. The bid packages and the plans, are you intending for those to be available only electronically? Or will you have hard copy versions available?
We generally, both ways, we can print them out and our typical process is we charge for the prints so that the town doesn't carry the cost of that. And I think usually we're anywhere between $75 and $100 for a full set of the prints and the project manuals. And we put that right in the bid packet. So if somebody calls us and wants a copy, we'll gladly print them out a set.
Okay, so that answers my second question is if you're charging for it. And then the last question I've got is, are you going to provide us when you provide, if for example, which I think is probably the right way, you get all the bid packages and you provide those back to us, are you going to provide with that information your evaluation of whether or not the bid is reasonable and responsive?
Yes, absolutely. So
okay,
what we would traditionally do is, well, you'll get all the hard copies of the bids that we receive. And because there'll be bid bonds with them, so they have to actually mail us copies of that unless, again, the town wants to do this electronically. And then we can request the bid bonds to have them just mail those independently of the bidding. But we can go through those details as we get a little closer here. But yes, we would review the bids. We'd look at them as far as the pricing, and then we would put a summary of those bids together and include usually in our email to the town our recommendations on who we would recommend they proceed with. So we won't go through and analyze every single piece of it, but what we'll do is we'll look at the bid prices that come back. I'll scan through the unit prices to make sure there's no real irregularities. So just for a summary, in our bid, we usually ask for a lump sum price to do the project as specified on the plans. And then what we do is we include unit prices, where basically everybody will include a unit price for 1 unit of whatever item it is. So it'd be like a ton of asphalt or a square foot of gravel or cubic yard of gravel, linear foot of guardrail, et cetera. So that as we go through the project, if things have to change, we have a unit price to assess to the change order, or if we have to reduce a scope of work, we have a unit price to adjust the change order. So there won't be any big surprises and you don't get those very large change orders at the end of the day, if you will. We can control them and see those unit prices.
Good. And then one last question, and this may be for the broader audience. Are we currently aware of any grant restrictions that would require us to select the lowest bid? And are there any other grant restrictions that we're aware of, like Davis-Bacon or those type of restrictions?
In my response, that's unclear. That's the last piece we do, is go through and look at those grant items and make sure, but we will certainly review that to make sure we have all the requirements in there. Traditionally speaking, it's the federal money that gets involved, and when they get involved, you have to do the Davis-Bacon wages and all those regulations. I don't believe the grants coming from federal. I thought it was under the impression it was coming from the state, but we'll check that and make sure we have all those little pieces and parts included in there in the event that federal dollars are coming. But that's an excellent question, and it's always on our list. We do that last, quite honestly, because we have those pieces we just add to our bid book as necessary to kind of carry those different costs. But we'll check those things the last thing right before it goes out to all the bidders.
Great, thanks.
Certainly.
How many easement responses have we gotten? Just the one that I saw?
Oh, I've gotten two.
Yeah,
Two cards
so there are two more to go?
No, Kristen is
Kristen
doing
was
one.
handling,
Okay, all right.
and we don't know what we got from her, but they are all now temporary construction easements. There's no permanent easement, so.
So they're not showstoppers.
I was gonna, that's a question I had. I'm alluded to it, Andrew, that, that if we don't get the easements, as Walter put it, it's not a showstopper. It would make things difficult perhaps, but it would also make things difficult for people trying to use their driveway. But
We got about a half an hour.
like a permanent easement, that if it's for some reason we can't negotiate it, it brings the project to a halt. Do you agree with that assessment, or?
Yeah, definitely. In these circumstances, we always, like.
Do we have any more
work with
extension cables?
landowners there. First thing, and that's what's done, we've sent out requests for temporary easements, but you are correct, they are all temporary. We don't need any permanent takings for that. And at the end of the day, we can work around them if there's an adamant neighbor that doesn't want to work with us. Essentially, all the temporary easements is to allow us to regrade the ends of driveways so that we can reduce the slope into the road. With the elevation changes and the road going up, we want to be able to flatten out those driveways so they don't come up abrupt up to the new road. So we can do either two things. We can leave them, have that abrupt transition to the road if they refuse to work with us, or the town, I believe you'd have to talk to your attorney, has the ability to take those temporary easements for the improvements and maintenance of this road and make this adjustment. So there are ways to kind of force the hand. Obviously, that's always the last option on the table. But I would sooner prefer to force somebody's hand to adjust the driveway grades to make a smooth transition, a safe transition, than to leave the road higher in elevation and have a real abrupt transition into a driveway. That's always the preferred option.
Okay, just so everyone knows where we're at, Andrew, so you know, 2 easements were mailed from here with a cover letter from us. They have been signed for and picked up and not returned or executed. And 2 were being with Mainco Seafood were going out from Kristen, the attorney. And I don't know where that's at. I think we need to follow up with that, Terry, if you could make a note on that. And we probably need to follow up with the other 2 now, because it's been a while, so. But anyways, Walter? Okay. I have a couple of comments. I wanted to follow up a little bit. It was on my list with Jeff. I just want to make sure that we bumped up the bid requirements against the grant requirements. And it sounds like no one has yet. But I was also thinking even broader to make sure if we have to have any signage or anything that the grant requires us to put in the project book, that it's funded by such and such or whatever. So I think that's something that maybe we need to do on this end here, and maybe talk to the folks at Northern Borders. I had easements on my list. We talked about that. My other concern is I don't think the blasting is, no blasting and no hammering is clear enough. It's very hard to read on the plans, and it's the very last page in the manual. I read through the whole manual and I didn't see it until I got to the last page. It almost seemed like an afterthought. And I'd like to make this, if at all possible, front and center on the first page. Because I think this is something that we really promised the residents, we will ensure happens, and I'd just like to highlight it in red on the first page, if we had to, or if we could. I don't know if you have a reaction to that, but to me, it almost felt like an afterthought when I looked at it, to be honest with you.
No, traditionally, so when you add special instructions to bid documents, they always end up in the back. So the contractor's familiar with the standard manual, they're familiar with all the standard specifications. So they go to the back of the book actually to look for those miscellaneous items such as permits and these special instructions. So it wasn't an afterthought, I assure you of that. That's just generally where we put that. But we can easily add a note right on the bid form that says, it'll be about page 5 or 6 in there, and we can add it right in the text describing the work, and we'll put in big bold letters, no blasting is allowed. So it'll be nice and clear, and they won't miss it, and they're gonna sign right below that, so they're gonna see it, and we'll make sure that it's right front and center for everybody.
No blasting or hammering.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Certainly, very easy.
The other thing is, I'm concerned, we're pretty sure, based on your estimate, that we have a fairly significant budget shortfall. And I feel that the time period between when we get the bids and when we're scheduled to award them does not give us enough time to explore, find, and secure monies, if we can, to fill that gap, if indeed there is a gap. So I just don't think that, we're talking roughly a month, if I remember correctly. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but I think it was sometime like January 14th to February 14th or something like that.
Yeah, so
I think that's like almost a month short.
Well, so during that process, traditionally what happens is if you find a contractor and you're comfortable with that contractor in that month time to review things, look over things, you would then send out the notice that you intend to initiate an agreement with that contractor. And what that does is it gives you that temporary kind of hold in that spot so that you can continue to work with them. And then you can work on some value engineering directly with the contractor that you're going to work with in the future. And that doesn't force you to sign the contract. What it does is it locks them into that contract so that if you're going to proceed with this project, you're going to go with them, assuming that all the numbers work out and everything goes forward with that bid that we put forward this time. So there's a lot of flexibility at the end of that. Extending that window, we can easily put a few more weeks on that. I mean, we have quite a bit of opportunity there. I would just advocate for letting the contractor know you intend to work with them as soon as possible. And that's why I only gave a month there. I think it would be beneficial for them to know they have work lined up for that 2022 season as soon as possible. Even if the town's still kind of chasing the funding and doing some value engineering, at least you could do that with a contractor tentatively lined up and kind of work through those questions with them. But for the most part, if that date's extended, 99% out of 100, I've been doing this long enough to realize that when that date extends, nobody officially asked for an extension on the completion date. So they would have the ability to do that, but they have to do that in writing. That's what's in our 200-page project manual. If they want an extension on that completion date, they have to notify us and request that date if the award date is delayed. So I would try to target that February date, but be aware we can slide that back as needed for the town to make it official. And they would have to officially request an extension of the contract, which we wouldn't be able to give them due to the paving considerations and making sure they got it done prior to November.
Okay, so that, just so there's no misunderstanding then, so that's not optional on the extending, is not optional on the part of the contractor, it's optional solely on the part of the town? If we say we want to extend that award date, they have to accept that? I didn't see any language to that effect in the.
No, they have the ability to request that, and if you haven't signed the contract with them, you don't have to approve it. So you would have the ability to move on to the next bidder if they couldn't do it within that time frame. So the town has the control of that.
So, but we cannot say we want to extend this a month, the award a month, and they have to accept that.
No, I guess I'm confused on what you're asking.
Oh, I thought I heard you say that, let's put in an example, that, let's say it's scheduled now for an award on February 14th. I thought I heard you say, we can say, okay, we want to extend that to March 14th, and they have to agree to that.
No, they could not sign the contract.
Okay.
John?
Okay, so we're just, it would be a negotiated thing then, what you're saying. So,
John?
that sounds like Jeff wants to chime in here, so I know he's done a lot of federal bidding.
Yeah, what he's saying is that if we extend our guarantee of when we're gonna pick a contractor, that if it is, let's say we extend it automatically to March, that cuts into their work schedule time. So they would come back and say, okay, if you're pushing us to March before you let us know, and now you have selected us in March instead of February, then we're not going to be able to be complete by October.
Yeah, I get that part.
Okay.
That's where I was confused.
Yeah. So what he said earlier was you award based on the bid. So it's a presumed award. Then you work with the contractor, even if the money is off, you still have time. They're still able to mobilize. They're still able to get their workers lined up, and you have time to fill in that gaps on the money. And pushing back a month on when we are guaranteeing we're going to tell them I guarantee will cost us more money in the long run, because now it's delaying it. And you're going to get some that aren't going to bid on it. They just won't bid on it because you're telling them in March instead of February that they have work for the spring and summer. I highly recommend that we keep with the February date.
Okay, and after hearing both of you talk, I'm okay with that, but I just want to make sure that we're all clear that if we award the contract on the 4th, if we give them a letter of intent of award, but don't actually sign the contract, that they have to hold the price?
They do. That they bid on those price, they bid on that completion date, and that's what the intent is just so they can start gearing up with the understanding that you're finalizing that contract.
I did not, I won't say, I pretty much read the whole thing. I did not see any language to that effect, but I'll go back and look for that, so, thank you.
Certainly.
And then the last thing I had was, I agree with Jeff. I think the awards should be going to your office and you guys should coordinate that. I think it's very important because I think the worst thing that can happen is an addendum is issued and somehow one of the contractors didn't get it and something happens and you guys are focused on that. That's your business. And so I think that's really important that you handle that.
Yeah, it would be much cleaner that way. So we can have the bids come to our office, and we'd like, if we can leave that 95% set on the town website, but in the perfect scenario, they just direct everything to us. Put our email right up there, send everything to us, and then we can, because we keep a running list of everybody that has a plan set, so we don't miss anything. And trust me, as soon as these things hit the public, you'll get 20 calls from solicitors that are really not interested in bidding it. They just want to put it in their magazine and on the websites and whatnot. So we handle those as well.
I personally think that would be great, and I just assumed that's the way it would have been. I've never really seen it another way, but anyways, that's all I have. Walter, anything else? No. Jeff, anything else?
One last question. Are you intending, or do you recommend doing a pre-bid meeting, or?
Yeah, I was in the specs.
Yeah, we can. It's a town thing, quite honestly. So the contractors that we work with on a regular basis, it's the big ones in the area that everybody knows. They know us, they know our plans, and we have such good relationships with them that they're going to call and ask questions if they have them. And then we will respond to everybody whenever they call. So anytime somebody calls us with questions, I write them down. I usually try to get them via email. That's what our bid book says. But if they don't do it that way, I write them down and then I respond to the group of everybody that has a bid, so they all see the questions that were asked. So we often skip those pre-bid meetings, quite honestly. This isn't an overly complicated project, believe it or not. It's pretty straightforward. We're grinding the road up. We're going to elevate it and put it back in place. So there isn't anything very unique to this road construction. And if there is something that jumps out to a contractor, they'll definitely ask a question. So oftentimes we kind of save their time and our time and skip the pre-bid meeting unless there's a lot of questions asked. And just because we plan to exclude it, if I start receiving a lot of questions about this, I'll put a pause on it and we'll have a meeting and I'll sit down. I've had to do that before with people and explain something that I thought was clear, but it didn't come across well in the plan. So it doesn't mean we can't ever do one. It just means we're gonna eventually, we're gonna try to avoid it unless there's a request for one, more or less. Or if the town would really like one so they can meet the contractors.
No, I like that approach personally.
I do too, but I can't put my finger on it this minute, but I could have sworn I saw somewhere in the specs that you said you would hold one.
We have general language in there, and again, all the meeting times and dates, we go through this one last time now that we've had this meeting to make sure of it.
Well, I think I read that in there.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. We have a pre-construction meeting right there in our first 5 or 6 pages that we required or not. And so, like I said, sometimes it's in there, sometimes it's not. And we focus on getting the meat and potatoes to this thing and all the specs in there, and then the little details like that we'll adjust right before it goes out the door here.
All right, well, I think we may have a few questions from members of the public. I'll start. Is there any questions from anybody who's attending here? Okay, and you said there was this one.
Chad Harris.
Chad Harris?
Yes.
So Chad Harris has a question for, so Chad?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I actually have a few questions for you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and ask the questions. And I appreciate all the work that's gone into these plans over the past, I don't know how many months it's been. Here's my first question, and I was looking through the manual. My first question is about the timing. So I understand that each segment will have, or what's in the manual is that each segment, the contractor has 8 weeks to complete each segment. And that will start in spring of 2020. So the last time that we had an open meeting like this, I remember I asked the question to the board, is the board open or going to allow the construction to proceed through the summer? And what my understanding of that meeting, or my recollection of it, was everyone said, no, we're not, the construction will not go through the summer. There's too many businesses, there's too many people, there's too many tourists, et cetera. But looking at the timing, spring of 2022 is March 20th through June 21st. So any time in that, what the manual reads is anytime, the contract can start any time between March 20th and June 21st, and then be under construction for the next 4 months, which would go literally from June. Let's say it could go from June all the way through October. So all the way through the entirety of the summer. So the high season for all the businesses, homes, et cetera, out there. So I guess that's my first question that I would appreciate being addressed, because I thought we went over all this, and I thought everyone was of the same mind that no, the construction is not going to take place in the middle of the summer, but based on the manual, it is. So I don't know if we want to address each question in turn, or do you want me to go through my list of questions?
No,
I think it'd be simple to do them one at a time.
Okay.
I don't recall the board ever saying that it wouldn't happen in the summer. But anyways, that's just my recollection. I don't know about, Jeff wasn't there, of course.
yeah, we had definitely talked about trying to minimize work during summer. Looking at the schedule, looking at the way this is laid out, I eliminated that component, and it wasn't definitive if we had to put it in there. So I just kind of left it out. My primary goal is to get you the best pricing possible for this project. And the more restrictions we put on that, the higher the price is going to go. If we take a project like this and eliminate it and say they can't build it from June, to September or something like that, it's going to leave us with very narrow windows. Trust me, the contractors do not want to be working a road with high traffic. So they're not going to work on those roads with high traffic at that point in time. Unfortunately, with the busy schedule of all contractors, I'm recommending keeping it open and flexible, understanding it's going to be a nuisance and very bothersome for everybody visiting from away and all the residents living there year round. It's just unfortunate, but we have to deal with a little bit of dust and dirt and a little bit of traffic and congestion to get through this and have a successful project at the end. So I would recommend not restricting it to just the spring and fall here and try to open that window up as much as possible. But I don't live on the end of that road, so I understand the concerns of the people that may, but I would request that you have patience and kind of understand that it's going to be a mess before it's better.
Right, and I appreciate that, Andrew. It's not just the people that live there, or the people that have summer homes there. It's the commercial interest too. It's the fishermen out there. This is, we've got Atwoods and McClunes down there also. I remember making the comment very clear, that it was in fact at the time the conversation that we had about it was at the time when Camden had closed down their roads in the middle of the summer and the disaster that caused. And I question, who's on that board that would allow this to happen in the middle of the summer. I understand it's, a little bit more dust and a little bit more traffic, but the contractors, of course, they don't want to be limited to their times. I don't think they really care about traffic too much or how much traffic they're having to deal with. They're gonna have to deal with traffic regardless. But anyway, it's certainly up to the town and what the town feels their constituents are going to want to see out there. Because like I said, it's not just people who live there. Like I personally can deal with traffic, but all the fishermen out there during the height of the summer, both lobster pounds there, how they feel about it. So,
and be clear, the road will not be closed for a long period of time, if you will. So granted, if there's an event that they have to shut it down temporarily, that'll be done, but it's going to be minutes, not days. So it'll be traversable regardless of the situation. So they'll build one lane at a time. You'll be able to get through there. The trucks will have to slow down, which has kind of been a request all along anyways. So things will have to slow down through there and people will have to take care, but there won't be anybody stranded or commercial industries not able to continue to work.
Well, I understand they're not going to be able to. I'm not saying they're not going to be able to continue to work, but when those lanes will be, one lane will be shut down, right, at most times. So it's going to be, people have to sit there and wait for an hour. They're not going to be super happy about that in the refrigerated trucks, rolling back and forth there. So anyway, that's my first question. I thought I had an answer to it, months ago, but I guess we're talking about it again.
I just want to comment again. I don't recall us ever saying that we wouldn't do any work in the summer. I do agree with Andrew that we thought we would try to minimize the impact there. But as far as the fishermen are concerned, my understanding is the fall is actually a busier time. So, and that's certainly been my observation. And I do live at the end of that road, by the way.
There's not gonna be any construction work when the fishermen are going to work.
Right. I mean, so. I do think, we pledged to sort of minimize the disruption, but I think that to say that we weren't going to do it at all in summer, given our short construction season here, we're looking at tripling the price. I'm exaggerating, but yeah. But anyway, okay. I don't want to belabor it.
And John, just to add to that, this is Maine, and doing paving work in Maine means that you're doing it in the summer. There's just no way around that. You don't start in the spring, shut down for the summer, and start up again in the fall. And the paving season ends at a specific date in the fall. So there are no options in Maine to do construction work in the winter. So I don't know who would have said we're not going to do any paving during the summer, because anybody who knows anything about the construction business in Maine knows that that is not a possibility.
Okay, Chad, you had another question?
I do. I do. So the other question too was still sort of talking on the timing subject, which is this the 8 weeks for each segment of this. Let's say something, if the contractor just says, they're out, the contract's been awarded, they're out there doing their work, and they just say, we can't do it in 8 weeks. It's going to take us 11 weeks. Are there any, I didn't see it, but are there any liquidated damages for that type of potential for a timing overage?
There are. So in that circumstance, the contract requests it. And if the town approves it, they can extend that work scope. If not, then they would have the liquidated damages. And I don't recall off the top of my head, generally speaking, we apply a standard $250 per day for liquidated damages. I don't recall, like I said, off the top of my head, sometimes that goes up to $500 a day if there's a pressing need, like a school needs to open and we're rated adjacent to it. I've had to increase that to $500 or $1,000 a day to make sure it happens. But to be honest, in Maine, generally speaking, liquidated damages are not something that has to be applied to these things. They're always in our contract, but I've been doing this over 20 years. I've never had to call anybody in on liquidated damages. The contractor's in the area, they're going to get it done. They're going to be within time, or they're going to ask for permission. And I'm sure the town will adhere to them and try to help them out. We have a lot of poor days of weather, and it's just unpredictable sometimes if you're working in there in the spring and fall, and it's tough to know. So sometimes those windows do get extended.
Okay.
I think this is a shorter term window than 8 weeks, quite honestly. I think they could do both sections of this road in 8 weeks combined. I've just provided them with a big window so that I wasn't the restricting factor, quite honestly.
Understood. Okay. Next question is the insurance. I think I saw that there's an aggregate insurance requirement for the contract of $2 million. I just question the amount of that. It seems honestly on the low side when you're out there working on roads. If there's a car accident, they cause a car accident. If there's, we're talking about impacts to wells out there, property damage, but especially, probably for the most part, it's, kind of accidents. And if $2 million is, if the town wants to limit the contractor to the $2 million cap, and I'm assuming above and beyond that, the town's going to cover whatever damages there might be. That's
standard language, that $2 million, and it's $2 million for any one person and $2 million for each incident. And then there's $2 million for any accident and $2 million for all accidents. So it does cap it at $2 million, but it does give multiple payout potentials. But again, that's standard language. That's what all the contractors are generally carrying for this type of work. But there's no real buildings involved. Usually you increase those incidences when there's significant things around them and you're in cities and whatnot. You can get those things up 10, $50 million. But it's quite a significant amount of money for what we're doing. We're replacing, 800 feet of road here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the town, the board, everybody understands that, the aggregate, no matter what happens out there, the most that their insurance is going to have to cover is $2 million. And then the town would be responsible for anything over and above that.
I just want to clarify that the town would not be responsible for anything over that. The Maine's Tort Claims Act are very clear on when the town would be obligated for any liability. It's all on the contractor. The most they would go after for the town is $400,000, and that is only if the town is negligent. So I just want to make sure that we're not setting up something like we're not going to do it in the summertime with this conversation. The town is not liable for the work of the contractor.
But having said that, if someone sues, they're going to sue us, but we are protected by the Maine Tort Claims Act to a limit of $400,000. So, plus or whatever the amount of our insurance is, whichever is higher. So. But anyways, well, I have another question here from Ruth Brinklin in the audience, Andrew.
Yes.
Thank you.
See her, you're gonna have to speak up, Ruth.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll do this then. I think you may have covered all of this just now, but I'm thinking about, you covered if one of the businesses, Atwood's, the co-op, McLean's, claims that they've lost business because of this project and sues the town for allowing this project. Is that covered in the insurance?
Andrew, do you want to address that? I know my experience in Thomaston tells me no, not at all. They had when they were doing some reconstruction work on Route 1 there, a number of businesses tried to go that route and they had no success whatsoever. But go ahead and address that. I'm sure that comes up all the time.
No, quite honestly, I haven't experienced that occurring in any of the projects I've been involved in. I think as long as we work with them, the goal is to work with Atwoods, make sure that they have somebody's phone number, they have the contractor and foreman's phone number. Trying to use local contractors greatly helps that, so that they can remain open and work with them. Like I said, I haven't been involved in that. I don't believe it takes a significant effort for a business to both prove that and then sue for the project to occur. But we have to do road work. We have to proceed. Like I said, I don't know the specific language. I haven't encountered that. But I think we try to cut that off and make sure that we're working with Atwoods, working with the lobster community out there, and making sure they have a direct connection with the contractor that's on site.
It really doesn't answer my question, but if you all feel it's okay, go with it.
Thank you. I think what he's saying is it'd be nearly impossible to prove, but anyways. Okay,
It still starts.
they can sue anybody. I can sue anybody for anything. Right, exactly.
I think there's a lot of case law on this very subject in Wisconsin.
Yeah, probably there is.
And I think those are still going with no resolution.
Yeah.
So Andrew, is there anybody else with their hand up, Penny?
Yeah.
Okay. So Andrew, are you looking for a motion from us to authorize you to issue the bids?
Yeah, I think if I just want to confirm that if you could confirm the dates in the bid packet that we presented, if you're fine with that. I know we were trying to potentially target the end of the year. I know that was a sticking point for the grant, but ideally I'd like to push that to the 14th. I think it gets you it in the same, close to the same window, but that depends on your grant and the situation. I know they were trying to force your hand there for a little while, but if you're comfortable with those dates, we would plan on having these things out to bid by December 15th, and it would give the contractors a little more than 4 weeks to review it. And again, we would recommend sending it to a handful of contractors that might be interested. And then we could give an ad to the town to post in the paper, or we could post it for you, however you want to handle it, if you want to go that route and get it out there.
I think we need to bump it up against the bid requirements, if any, in the grant.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah,
I think that's very
that grant.
And there may not be any, I don't know, but my understanding is this is federal money, correct?
That's what I thought.
My understanding, Andrew, it is federal money filtered through Northern Borders, but.
Yeah, that's minor. We can include that information, and it's a whole packet that gets included. But the real question is the timing of things. Like I said, I know there was this date that was kicked around at the town that we had to have it done by the 1st of the year, and you had to have numbers back by the 1st of the year. So I just want to make sure that the town checked on that, and it's clear what the requirements are for that end.
Well, they've been kind of ambiguous with Terry. Terry's talked to them. You want to give us the latest? I mean, they definitely would like us to make a decision by January 1st, but they were.
She gave a little, I think the 14th would be okay.
Okay.
She gave a little.
She gave a little leeway. I mean, they probably need time to close out their books and understand what they're de-obligating.
Of course.
So I think, so Terry, you're the only one who's talked to her, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you have several tweaks to do. Are you coming back with us with a final package, or will we just see it when the contractors see it?
I would recommend this would be our last stop here, and the next step would be to go out to contractors, and I'll make sure everybody sees that. So I think we can proceed. You've seen it 95%. We've talked about all the little tweaks and changes I need to add, and I'd recommend we get this out to the contractors.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
I move that we authorize Bartley and Dorsey to issue the bids.
Second,
I second that.
further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff? Walter?
Jeff, aye.
John, aye. Okay, and Terry's gonna check with Northern Borders about any bid requirements that may be in there.
That sounds wonderful. I'll reach out to Terry tomorrow, and we'll get on the same page with all these requirements and clean the rest of this thing up, and it'll be done very soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
All right,
Andrew.
thank you. You guys have a good night.
Thanks,
Okay.
Andrew.
1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna jump back to, whoa. Public comments for items not on the agenda. And it's 8:30.
That's, no one ever turned that back.
No, it's 7:26.
Oh. Oh, 7, that's much better.
You feel better?
Much better. I looked up there, I said, you're kidding. I feel like turning that back right now. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, review and approval of prior meeting minutes. We have minutes for the 30th. Excuse me, the 26th, I know that's today, and the 27th. I knew we had 2, right?
And the 23rd.
Oh,
And the 23rd.
Oh, yeah, okay. Do you want to take them one at a time separately?
I wasn't there on the 23rd.
Let's take them separately then. Okay, is there a motion on the 23rd?
I move we accept the minutes for November 23rd.
Is there I have a second. Second? Further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, aye.
Walter?
Abstain.
John, aye. Is there a motion for the minutes of October 27th?
Move to approve the minutes of October 22nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, aye.
Walter?
Aye.
John, aye. Is there a motion for October 26th?
I move we accept the minutes of October 26th, revision 1.
Oh, okay, thank you. Second.
Okay, Terry, under discussion, these include those changes that I suggested?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I threw this in.
Yeah.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, aye.
Walter?
Aye.
John, aye. Okay,
John, you weren't at that meeting, the 27th. On the 27th, you weren't at the meeting.
okay, I'll abstain.
Yeah.
27?
That was with the budget. committee.
Yes, okay, right. Okay, you're right. Okay, I'll abstain on that.
Good catch.
You took them on board.
Well, you have? No, that's 26. I'm sorry, that's what happened. Okay. Oh, I see. Because the way you have them listed is 26, 27, 23rd.
Because the 23rd is November.
Ah, right, okay.
So that's what you said.
I know, I got it
You
confused.
went
Okay,
backwards.
all right. So we're done with axiom study. We're done with the update to Midcoast Inland Development. We done with the Island Road. Use of ARP funds. I don't know. I sent you guys an email today. I hope you,
Yes, I printed it out. Do you have a copy, John? I put it on the table over there. for you.
yeah, did you and,
Walter, do you have a copy?
I have the spreadsheet?
yeah, and,
Yeah, that John sent out.
and plus Terry, you had in the packet,
Yep.
where we stand with a balance on, and then plus the sheets from the 2 daycare centers. So as I said just briefly, I talked to the owners of the 2 daycare centers who had filled out the forms. There was some confusion with the forms. Sunshine Cove thought she had to include the people that were no longer current, no longer employees, but she didn't, and she would prefer not to pay them. Some of them work just a couple of hours, some of them aren't even on a payroll system anymore. Little Learners has one person who is no longer currently employed, but was employed until the end of August and worked through the entire pandemic, and she would like to include her. And that issue of current versus not current is not an issue with the gig. And again, if you remember, Maritime declined to participate. So, so the first top scenario 1 shows everybody. Scenario 2 shows the adjustment if you took out the non-current employees at Sunshine Cove. And scenario 3 shows Sunshine Cove taken out plus the owners of the Little Learners taken out. I did that because I wanted to look at the difference, because they're also interested, they being Little Learners, in the financial assistance grant. And obviously they did lose a lot of revenue through this net. But I wondered if that was sort of a dual payment. And I don't know that it is, but it struck me that it could be. So I just wanted to reflect that. So I guess my feeling about what we do with the premium pay, whether to include the 2 owners or not, sort of hinges on what we do with the assistance grants, the business assistance grants. If we're going to do nothing there or little there, then I feel they should get the premium. On the other hand, if we are going to, you know, provide a substantial business assistance grant, and I don't know what that means, then perhaps we shouldn't. And it's further complicated by the fact that there's a dual owners there, but one of them spends a lot of their time in Rockport. So, so thoughts? I would like, if we could, to get at least a premium pay piece done tonight so we could get this out to them for holidays and stuff. I think that would be nice. And again, I remind everyone, these are people that worked and served, you know, providing daycare and gig store, you know, holding themselves out there through the height of the pandemic in the state of emergency. So thoughts, Jeff, Walter?
I agree with your suggestion.
Yeah, I would make that in the form of a motion. I would move scenario 2 for a total of $16,378.95 for Little Learners, Sunshine Cove, and the gig store.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, just for discussion purposes, I personally would have moved for scenario 3 and taken up the other matter first. I can live with scenario 2, but can I ask you a rationale for including?
Especially for daycare centers, the owners are workers as well. And what this is doing is reimbursing the workers and not the business. It's it's giving money to the workers, and they're just as much workers as the non-owners.
Okay.
I think for the business, it's a separate issue, separate question. Did the business lose money? How much was it? And I think that has nothing to do with reimbursing the workers who are putting it out there during the COVID thing.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, Jeff?
Jeff, aye.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. Okay. Can we now move to the business assistance portion for the 2 daycare centers, who did indeed lose no matter how you slice it or dice it, one's much larger than the other, but percentage-wise, lost a lot of revenue. And did not cut their expenses all that much. As a matter of fact, one of them paid their employee, well, actually, one paid their employees for a couple of weeks before unemployment kicked in, and the other paid them through the entire time that they were closed. So I'm of a mind to, again, given the purpose of these funds, and the fact that I think daycare is critical to keeping our economy moving and churning, I'm of a mind to provide both of them with a grant to help offset some of that revenue loss from these ARP funds. So I don't know how others feel.
Well, conceptually, I agree.
So if we
I'm missing any suggestion of how much.
well, I don't know. I mean, both of them lost substantial revenue. There's no question about it. One got a PPE grant, one didn't, but the revenue loss was much greater at the one that got the PPP grant. So I guess I was thinking somewhere in this vicinity of $5,000.
I was gonna say that $5,000 has been our favorite number.
Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking a little more than 5,000, but
Well, I could support that. I mean, I think keeping these open are critical,
yeah, I agree.
and we don't know what's coming again.
I would make a motion that we support both of them with $7,500.
There's a second?
Second, so that we get to the discussion.
Okay. All right, so move the second, $7,500 to each. Discussion?
So I would like to do a quick, to get the calculation of where that's gonna leave us. So we start with 50,923
For balance.
for a balance.
Yeah.
And we have just spent,
Call it 16.5 for easy math.
for the scenario 2, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little less than that. But
Right. Okay. So
15 off that.
that leaves us 34, if I'm doing this right. I don't have my calculator. Minus 15,000.
Why are you doing that? The vaccine incentive expires today, right?
Right,
Expired today.
right.
So that's, any big surprises there in the last couple of days?
Four more that need to be paid out, so $800 more.
Okay, so another grand just for
Yeah.
chuckles, Walter.
Get the calculator. Scary, because mine's not working.
On my phone, I got it.
I finally got it.
Well, I can pull mine up.
See if I could send them.
I say we'll be using the $1,000 flag on the vaccine. I think we're ending with 18,923 left.
What'd you say, Walter?
18,923.
Bingo.
We both got the same number?
Surprising. You get the third person get it?
No, I got 18,544.
Well, you did the exact numbers.
You
We just
use
rounded.
you use precise numbers and we use swags. Ah,
Remember, we have another second tranche coming
We
through.
do?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. I'll call for a vote. Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
aye.
John, aye. Okay. And I don't think at this point we have anything else in the works, other than I did talk to that ventilation guy, and I've never heard anything back from him. I will follow up again with him. All right. Is there any update regarding the temporary relocation to Guilford Butler? Jeff, nothing from the fire marshal's office, correct?
No, and I'm waiting for a callback from John. But I suspect that he's off on holiday right now. But I have not heard anything.
The fire marshal's office or John or Penny?
I've not, since I emailed him, and he said he had checked these before, this was a couple weeks ago, that we were in the file and could be a few weeks or not.
Did you hear that, Jeff?
No.
Did you hear that, Jeff? Penny emailed John Hanson a couple weeks back when you were indisposed. And John, I guess, checked with the fire marshal's office and was still in the file. It could be a couple of weeks or a couple of months.
Okay.
So, Penny, anything you want to update us?
Well, Ralston and came today, repaired the ramp
Yeah.
to
The broken ramp out back, yeah.
the garage door. And while he was there, and I have a key for him, which I told him I would leave at town office. While he was there, I found a pile of siding, unused siding. So he was going to repair the siding that was busted.
Great.
And we talked about the drain on the front lawn.
Yeah, okay. And inside, you're
It's looking good.
pretty much ready to go, or?
Pretty much. We're going to start in on the bathrooms at this point. So I didn't, do you want me to wait to talk about that when we talk about the flooring purchase?
Yeah, sure, we can get to that down there, but,
Okay.
okay. So, nothing major. I'm not looking for stuff, I just want to give you an opportunity, because
No, it's going very
it's
well.
8:30.
Very well. Going very well.
Okay, update on assessors agent, CEO LPI recruitment process. We did interview a candidate. I have some information to add here, but regarding a discussion I had with the city manager of the city of Rockland about perhaps partnering with them, but that may become moot, depending on what we do later on in this meeting. So I would suggest that we table this until we make a decision later on in the meeting, if that's agreeable with you folks.
Move to table V5G.
Is there a second, Jeff?
Second.
We can take it off the table later on if we need to. Okay, all those in favor, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. Life flight donation request.
Excuse me, we skipped the Little Red Schoolhouse lease.
I'm sorry, we'll go back to that. There's no update on the Little Red Schoolhouse lease because that's pending the move, the relocation to the Guilford Butler School.
Well, I would like to interject here. My recommendation is that we schedule a special town meeting to approve the lease, because I think we want the lease approved and signed and executed prior to them actually making the move. And the language currently in the lease is that it becomes effective upon the move. But I do think we ought to set a special town meeting to finalize it.
Okay, I'm a little hesitant to do that because, tonight, because I told Carol that I didn't expect that anything would come up tonight. Can we put this off to the next meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking that we set the special town meeting in January. So definitely at one of our December meetings.
Okay, plus it's a long meeting so far, and
Yep, I agree.
I think we're gonna have to figure out where we're gonna do it and when, and that's gonna take a little time, so.
Yep.
Okay, so Ruth, you have a comment?
I just have a question about who owns the Little Red Schoolhouse.
The town owns the land, the town owns the Little Red Schoolhouse itself, the red part of the building, and the Historical Society owns the brown building.
Oh, okay.
I'm sort of simplifying it, but that's
Right,
basically.
I got that.
And they haven't, and the Historical Society has a 99-year lease to have their building on the town property.
On the lake.
Right, and it's now down to probably 85 years.
I thought the writer, I thought the Historical Society owned the schoolhouse as well, but no. Thank
Okay,
you.
and I also talked to Carol, and she has not heard anything back from Lowe's about the shingles donation, so. Is there a motion to table this to the next meeting?
So moved.
Okay, Jeff, motion table, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. Thank you, Ruth, for reminding me about that. I missed it. In my mind, I was thinking we didn't have to deal with it. I know. Consider lifelike donation request. We did talk to Amy, and I think we all got an email from her. Jeff, you had some thoughts on this? You have, I think last time you were ready to make a motion to deny it. Are you still ready to do that, or?
Yes. Yeah, I move we deny the Lifeline donation request based on our traditional non-commitment to these types of requests.
Second.
Further discussion? Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. We've done A and B earlier. Budget timeline. Terry, I'm gonna let you lead this discussion.
Okay. Can we go back to,
Did we miss something?
I missed something.
What?
Jeff moved to deny the lifelike donation request based on our traditional non-what of these requests? Non-acceptance?
Yeah, non-support of this type of request.
Non-support,
Or non-funding?
okay.
Okay.
Can you give a timeline, Walter? Okay.
Was that in the packet that you
It
passed
was
out
on
tonight?
the
Supplementary
page.
email.
So last year, the board met with department heads February 22nd, 24th, and 25th. And then we did a budget review on the March 29th, but it was kind of quick and it was kind of a crazy year anyway. And then you met with the select board, the budget committee met March 29th to April 1st. And I think at that point, it was talked about that this year, the board should meet themselves and have the budget set in their heads before they met with the budget committee, instead of everyone talking back and forth. And we did end up going until April 5th, and then we had to reconvene for the 6th with the spectrum outage. And that was our final review and approval, but then a couple other things came up, so we met on May 6th to finalize. So this year, if we met with the department heads February 21st to the 23rd and 24th if needed, then at the end of March, the board could meet prior to meeting with the budget committee and then meet with the budget committee April 4th to the 7th. And if we need a final meeting at the end of May, we could do that.
The end of May?
If we need to have a final
You said the end of May, but it says the beginning of May.
one. Oh, well, I meant beginning.
Okay.
I can't read.
Okay, the end of May sounds late. that's
Yes,
why.
it would be very late.
So, I'm just backing up in my head from town meeting. Do you recall when we held town meeting last year? Huh?
June 15th.
Yeah.
June 15th. So, this year, when is the election, do you know?
No, at the 12th?
Let me look on my calendar. Well, it would be, I believe, June 14th?
Yeah.
That's the second Tuesday?
Yeah.
Flag Day. Right. So if it's June 14th. So could we traditionally have held town meeting on the 21st, would that be acceptable or too late, or
Well,
it's about a week later than last year, but I don't know that that's a problem.
we can't have it on the 14th because there's an election.
I understand. And we traditionally had it on a Tuesday. We don't have to have it on a Tuesday, but.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Huh?
I don't know if you wanna go back on that.
though. Okay. 21st. Jeff? Tuesday's the 21st?
Yeah, yep.
I mean, it's not cast in stone at this point. We're just doing a planning timeline, but. Okay, so that also gives you a sense of when nomination papers,
Right,
what sort of ties into this budget
Yep.
timeline as well, right? You can count back from that.
Yep.
And you can always have them out there earlier.
right.
Okay,
There'll be a line at the door.
yeah, I'm sure. And time, so that gives you enough time with the town report?
I think so, because it's, I mean, it's.
Well, you just gained an extra week in June if we go with the 21st,
Yep.
so.
I think it all pretty much followed. I mean, I thought last year went pretty good except for not really having budgets, but this year will be so much smoother.
I suspect it, I actually, I don't suspect it, I know it.
But I do think it is important for the board to review it without the budget committee, so that you're all on the same page instead of having a whole mess of people talking their thoughts.
It's not critical, but I'd like to be here in person for that.
Oh, that's right, when you gonna, I forgot you weren't gonna be here, John.
Well, I'm gonna be here just for a little while. I'll be back, but I think that works. Why else does my calendar disappear? We'd be talking March, right? Well, actually, probably not to the 23rd or 4th. So would the 29th be too late? Or the 28th?
For just us.
No, yeah, for
Yeah.
just you guys at the end, sometime the end of March, that would be fine.
28th or 29th or something like that. Our regular meeting is if we had it would be the 8th and the 22nd, right? So we can talk about that later, but, so that kind of works, right? If we did it that last week,
Yep,
the 28th, 29th, that work for you, Jeff? And
Yep.
it's not critical that I be here. Walter?
Fine.
Okay. And that would, hopefully, we could just do that in one meeting, because it would really just be the three of us.
right, and I make sure you had
And Terry.
everything
And
well in advance.
we might want to have a couple of the more major department heads maybe available.
If you had questions,
Yeah,
if I got it all
fire.
out to you and you
Right.
had questions,
We
you
have,
could have
you
them.
know, but we're gonna meet with the department heads anyways.
Right,
And so, but I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, maybe fire and ambulance would be the only two probably that would be. So, okay, does that give us something to work with? Jeff, you look way too comfortable.
Yeah, I did get a new chair.
So, that work well for you?
Yeah, that's great for me.
So Terry, why don't you, maybe draft something up and get it out to the department heads for review and comment or something, so they
Yeah.
feel informed.
Yeah.
You might want to add when you'll be getting a packet to them or expect it back from them, so you can make the sausage.
Yep.
Great. Nice job.
I got the elaborate report from the Revenue Forecasting Committee today.
Oh, from the state of Maine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only, I immediately went to CPI, and they're saying 4.4% this year and 3.5% next year in terms of year-over-year growth. So that's about the one statistic that impacts us,
Okay.
except they're overachieving revenue too.
Yeah, by a lot.
By a lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, discussion on process to accept and account for donations to the new community center and library. This is something that Sandy Wiseman asked to be put on. I really don't think it's something that the board necessarily needs to do. But I told Sandy I would bring it up. I mean, I see it as simple as Terry setting up a segregated account for anybody who makes a donation for this purpose. And similar to the account that we have for the Fisherman's Memorial, or whatever you want to call it, that just sort of doesn't lapse the surplus. And people can donate to that segregated account. And I really see it as an administrative thing. Does anybody see an issue here at all, or?
My question is, when you say.
Hang on, let's get the board first and then open to Jeff. You were gonna start to say something?
Yeah, I agree. At this point, it's a town administrative process. I think the bigger question is if and when they form a separate entity, how that process happens. But I don't think we're ready to discuss that now.
But that's down the road.
Correct. That's not
I
now.
think it's a good, I personally think it's a good idea to have two avenues of donations, one to the town and one to the 501c3 if they set one up. Because personally, I'd rather donate to the town, and I think other people will feel that way. And other people may want to donate to a 501c3. So I think
We're 180 degrees apart
we are.
on that.
Oh.
So if a 501c3 dissolves, then the organization must settle all its debts with all its creditors. And then any residual funding that's left has to go to a not-for-profit. Okay, so it's gone if it dissolves. So my question is, what happens when the town is the recipient and you don't make the goal, those funds?
Well, that's exactly why I favor having an account with the town, because I don't want to make a donation and then see it go to a like organization.
See, now I don't want to make a donation and have it go to the town, because
Yeah.
I pay a few dollars in taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm going to be a large contributor to that 501c3.
Yeah. But people, I think different people will feel different. So,
Yeah.
and not only that, this allows them to get something started right away. I just feel that a lot, that it also would allow us to have there's some grant programs that will only give money to a 501c3 nonprofit, and there's some that will only give to municipalities or governmental agencies. So again, it gives us an opening for both. And in terms of your question, what happens to that money? That's a good question. We certainly could track it and give it back if somebody wanted it back.
So
Or
you
to the-
can't do that with a 501c3.
But the
Can
town
you do
could.
it? The town could? Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes me
yeah.
feel good.
But we'd have to track it.
And just to clarify, a 501c3, if it dissolves, one of the organizations that the state of Maine allows them to send that money to is the town. If there is no other like organization.
For profit by definition.
That's always a possibility that, depending on how it happens, so.
Yeah.
But Ruth had a question.
You talk about a separate account then for the new community center. Are you talking about a separate bank account?
No.
Or just a separate bookkeeping
Just
account?
a separate bookkeeping. Yeah. We don't need to do accounting by bank accounts.
You say account.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's an account.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, question here?
Well, it's kind of gonna be my question is, how do I answer people's questions when they ask me what happens to the money if this project doesn't come to fruition? If they donate money
To a 501c3 or to the
to
town?
the town?
Well, I think that the direct answer would be that if they would like it to be returned, if this project doesn't come to fruition, they need to make that a condition of their donation, or they should make that a condition of their donation.
So send a letter in with whatever.
Yeah, well, and as I told Cindy, they definitely should send a letter in saying what purpose it's for, so Terry can identify that. I mean, if they just send it in, say, library, well, then we don't know whether they're donating to the library that's currently operating for an operational purpose or to do something else at Butler. I think people need to be clear, and hopefully Terry, if she gets a donation, and it's not clear, we'll follow up and get some documentation
Well,
from
I
people.
think it's a good idea to maybe print something up that we can hand to people and say, you can use this to send it in as a donation, and they can spell it out.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to retard for donations because someone didn't send it on the right form or something like that. I mean,
Well, it
that's,
just gives them an idea.
well, I know, I
It's
understand.
informational,
Yeah,
it's- You can do what you want, but this is the information that's needed.
And some people may want to do it anonymously. In that case, it's hard to return that.
Well, yeah, but I need to be able to answer these questions. You know,
Yeah.
Somebody says, okay, if this doesn't happen, Rich, I'm gonna know how we're gonna happen.
So are you absolutely sure that a donation to the town that doesn't fulfill its purpose can be redistributed to the donors?
I thought I was, but we can double
I
check
think,
that.
I think that's a question for Kristen or somebody. I'd really like to, I like that answer.
No,
But I want to make sure that's the right answer.
And I agree. Let's double check that. I certainly have seen that done before. That doesn't mean that it's proper, but we certainly said that with the tennis courts. We held that out there. 'Cause
Oh, okay. That's what-
But that, again, doesn't mean, but I think it's worth checking. I agree with it. And I'd be happy to follow up with MMA on that.
Okay.
Ruth, you have another question?
Yeah, I know you talked about the 501c3 versus just giving to the town. Is either one a tax donation? A tax-free tax?
Tax deductible?
Thank you.
The 501c3.
They,
It is, okay.
they should be, but that would be always between an individual and their accountant. But certainly donations, generally as a rule, then donations to a municipality or donations to a 501c3 are tax deductible.
Okay, thank you.
Now, an individual could have some circumstances if they're in trouble with the IRS. Where the IRS, they may, no.
Or,
I'll play it.
or you have to be able to itemize.
That's
There's
true.
no rule.
Yeah, if you don't itemize, you can't.
Right, so if your standard deduction, you know,
But hopefully
the
with
Trump Ryan tax bill.
hopefully we're talking about donations that, at least in my mind, would be of a significant enough amount that it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that it would be just worth your while to deduct. Penny, did you have your hand up at one point or?
Yeah, but can't remember.
Sorry. Thought I caught the glimpse of it. Okay, so I think we're all set here. I don't think the board needs to take any action. Terry, you just need to set up a separate account and we can maybe work on putting a little flyer together in case someone calls. It's not a flyer, but a little card or something that would capture the information you want.
So they're meeting tomorrow, so maybe she wants the answer.
Can you convey that? I'll try to call her, but if I don't catch
No, I'll
her.
bring it up at the meeting. I was
Yeah.
gonna bring it up anyways, because it's one of my questions.
Yeah. Well, Sandy asked to be on the agenda tonight, so. But anyway, okay, Jeff, you all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. All right, accept Ryan Minikis resignation from the planning board.
Move to accept.
Second,
Second,
all those in favor, discussion?
Where does that leave us?
We have 4 members and no alternates, and 2 of the members are out of the country.
Cindy, who's working in the office, I can't remember her last name. She is interested in being on the
Cindy,
planning board, and she's going to Florida, but she'll get back in touch when she comes back tonight.
Good.
Cindy,
Yeah.
oh,
She worked in.
Rick. Richard.
Richard,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay.
She's interested in being on the planning.
And when is she coming back?
March.
Oh, that's great news, but. Okay, we didn't vote on this, I don't think.
No.
So, all those in favor?
Jeff, I.
John, aye. Resignation of Anna Genesio. I finally learned how to pronounce her name and she's leaving. Is there a motion to accept?
Move to accept with regret.
Second,
Second with regret.
discussion? Wish her luck in her future endeavors. Just quickly before we vote, Terry did want to get an ad in right away, and that's been done, right, Terry?
Yes.
I talked to her briefly, and if you guys object, we can pull it out, but I thought it was a good idea, and I asked Terry to put it in there to make it clear that this position is the note taker for the planning board, or minute taker for the planning board. And so there was, because I think we're struggling to fill that, and if someone knows when they apply right up front that they gotta do 1 meeting a month and do these minutes, I thought it was a good idea. I hope I didn't overstep my bounds, but I think it was the right thing to do, and we can always change that, so. Any problems with that?
Not for me.
I think that the planning board should then be required to Zoom its meetings so that that note taker can work remotely, especially if the person comes from out of town. I think we have the technology to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why make somebody travel here?
Yeah. Well, there was more than just a note taker too. I mean, I think Terry felt that her life would be a lot easier if the agenda was, for lack of a better word, typed up, by someone that she could just count on doing this stuff, rather than trying to fill a hole every week or every month and make sure it got done, and someone would follow up with her. So, I mean, that was my sense, is you thought, rather than taking away from your job, your health, it would actually free up a little bit of time. So, anyway, okay. Any applicants?
No,
Great.
no. Michelle's gonna fill in though until we get someone,
Right.
as much as she can.
Okay, consider purchase of new sandwich board sign.
Jeff, I.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Walter, I.
John, aye. It's late, I'm tired. Consider purchase of new sandwich board sign for town office. Terry, you wanna go over this real quick?
Well, we have our sign out here. As everyone notices, we can only put letters on one side because the strips are gone on the other side. So we would like to purchase a new one. Anna did some research. One is $2.99 and the other's $3.55. Don't really see much difference in either one. But it'd be nice to have a sign that we could put wording on both sides. And it wasn't in the budget, so I was told I had to ask approval.
Oh, it's in the policy, right? Yes.
But at the library, I was able to buy just the insert and not.
Oh,
have
were
to
you?
Replace the stand skin, and I believe it was through Denco, which is the library supply store.
Yeah.
And it was less than half the price of having to buy the stand.
Oh, yeah, we'd look at that.
You pull the bolt out.
Yeah.
And where that board isn't swinging, usually you can put a second bolt through, because I think a lot of wear and tear comes from the flowing. So that might be something to look at, but at that time, which was years ago, I could buy just the white side of the sign.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that sign, though. I think, if my memory serves me right, there's other problems with it too. There's a broken foot or something. I don't know, but,
Yeah, I'll look at it.
yeah. But, you know, perhaps we should just make a motion to approve up to $300 to repair or replace. If that is acceptable to folks?
Sure.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Jeff? Discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
John, I. So Terry, you have the great discretion of figuring it out on your own.
Okay, thank you.
Donation, $1,250 to the ambulance from McLean's Lobster Shack.
I move to accept and thank McLean's.
Second,
Second,
discussion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, I. Motion to accept $1,250 donation to the fire department from McLean's Lobster Shack.
I move to accept the donation to the fire department.
Second,
Jeff? Discussion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, I. Considering a $50 donation to the ambulance from Claudia
Scalzi.
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 Motion?
So move.
Jeff,
Second,
discussion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, I. Consider accepting a $100 donation to the fire department from Ann Sawyer.
Move to accept.
Second,
Discussion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, I. Consider a $25 donation, accepting a $25 donation to the fire department and ambulance service. How does that work? They each get $1,250
$12.50.
From Randy Benner, Rainey, sorry.
I'll move to accept the donation with an earmark.
Jeff,
U.S. Congress.
Second,
discussion? So Terry, you are gonna separate $12.50 to each, is that the thought?
Yeah,
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, I.
Sorry, Walter,
Aye.
I forget we're doing this remote.
I know, I keep forgetting, I apologize.
No, that's not me. Department head reports? Any comments on ambulance, assessor, EMS, CEO, LPI, town administrator, treasurer? Comments, questions? Seeing none. Library director, Penny Alley, flooring purchase.
Can I
Penny?
put
Oh,
a
sorry.
question in? I'm gonna call or text Dan when it gets close enough, if you wanna, I don't know how to judge how much time that's gonna take. Won't take it long to get here.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I don't even know if we need him to come. So, so he's only a couple of seconds away, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
Penny?
Well, so far we've been able to spend only books and lawn sale monies to do maintenance and upgrade to Guilford Butler prior to moving in. And as we move into the bathrooms, I think that we might outspend what we've raised so far. And in our excitement to be able to purchase the flooring, we did spend above the limit that spelled out by the purchasing policy prior to coming to you for approval. So, I'd like to ask for forgiveness for spending money for the flooring, and then maybe pre-approval to spending money for the bathrooms and the accessible, ADA accessible ramp to the building. And those funds will probably not all come from our book sale monies, but have to dip into the surplus allotment or the relocation.
Okay, so why don't we deal with the flooring first?
Okay.
What are the numbers we're looking at here? You need approval for what?
I have spent, 1,600 a floor for 3 floors.
And out of your book sale and
Yes,
and other funds. So is there, and you, that's the one you neglected to come to us first, and you're looking for a retroactive approval?
yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved. So give me the number.
Second.
1,600.
1,600 per floor for 3
Per
floors.
Per
Okay.
floor
So-
for 3 floors, so would that be 1,600 times 3?
Correct.
Yes,
1,600 times 3.
yes. Okay. You still make the motion?
So so this is not coming from the, from the, approval at town meeting, or is it? That's what I.
No,
Okay, fine.
this is from the money raised for
Oh, this is,
Yeah.
at the book
Yeah.
sale and lawn sale.
So at this point, you're just looking for approval under the purchasing policy to
Correct.
purchase this.
right.
The money, the funding's not an issue.
Nope.
Right. Okay. Ruth?
It was my understanding when this was all happening that we didn't need to spend any money on anything. Especially the flooring, because it was talked about the flooring had asbestos and everybody said, well, as long as we don't touch the flooring, everything's fine. And now we're looking at over $4,000 for flooring for a building that's gonna be torn down in 3 or 4 years. I don't understand.
Well, the flooring goes right over the carpet, and it was money
Over
that,
the carpet?
right over the carpet, which is over the asbestos. So the asbestos has not been disturbed. That's my understanding, right?
Correct.
And this money was money that they raised and they had volunteers install. And so the only issue here is whether or not, the only issue with the flooring is that Penny neglected to come to us in her excitement to get pre-approval because it was over $500. So, you know, I don't think anybody ever
But
said.
where is the money coming from?
They raised it, book sales, donations. It's
So
not been-
why is he having to get approval from the town?
Because our policy says if it's a purchase over $500 needs to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Even though it's not.
Even though
taxpayer
it's
money.
not taxpayer money.
Oh, okay.
And she's just trying to dot her i's and cross her t's here,
It's
retroactively.
the expression of don't ask for permission, do it and ask. for
She's
forgiveness.
asking for forgiveness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's graciously granted.
Thank you. And I guess my question is going forward.
Well, let's deal with this. We
Okay,
haven't finished this yet.
all right.
So we had a motion from Jeff. Was it? Terry? Walter. Jeff, did you second it?
Yes.
Okay, further discussion on the motion, just the motion. Okay, all those in favor, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John, I. Okay, now, you want to talk about something else tonight?
Well, as we're coming into working on the bathrooms and the ADA ramp.
Yeah.
Do I need to come before the select board at a meeting to get approval to spend those money if they exceed $500?
I don't have the purchasing policy in front of me, but I believe that's what it says.
Can I get pre-approval? Because we.
Do we have a number?
Well, I'm going to guess that the ramp is going to cost more than 500.
No, I know, but you have you know how much it's gonna be and up to, not to exceed, or?
I don't, because I'm working on the gift of materials and labor and mostly labor.
Yeah.
The materials are probably what's going to be what we have to purchase.
Is there any reason you can't come back with when you have the actual number, or is that, are you afraid it's gonna impede your ability to make this happen in a timely manner, or
When's your next meeting?
the 14th?
Well,
I mean, it sounds like you don't really have a number yet, though.
no, because I'm not sure how much of this is going to be volunteer and how much is going to be gifted.
Yeah.
That's in the works.
So, I don't know, Jeff, Walter, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm inclined to approve it, but I would like a number up to a certain amount. So,
Not to exceed.
yeah, or a not to exceed.
Can you give us a not to exceed number?
I
Or would you rather
say,
come back on the 14th?
I would not to, ramp not to see 2,000, and bathroom not to exceed 1,500.
Really?
Yeah. Once again, we're going to be working with gifted labor and
send me your
just have to
plumber.
replace.
But that's gonna include handrails and all those things? And redoing the stalls so they're ADA and, or some of them are already ADA? I mean,
We have a couple of grab bars already.
are the
The
stalls,
toilet,
are the stalls ADA?
well, we're going to reconfigure the stall.
Okay, all right. Well, if you think you can, that's great. If you think you can do it for that. So, is there a motion to approve up to $2,000 for the, not to exceed $2,000 for the ramp?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John, aye. I guess I'm a little hesitant on the $1,500. It just seems to make, that just seems too good to be true.
So if we have all the labor, and all we have to do is replace the toilet,
We have a volunteer plumber,
and yes, and add,
a licensed plumber? Who's volunteering?
well, as far as replacing the toilet, does that have to be a licensed plumber?
Well, no, I guess not, if you're just replacing a toilet. There's no pipe, there's no plumbing involved, or?
No,
Okay.
no, we're gonna shut off the other toilet.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I just, from looking at those, I thought it was gonna be a bigger project than it is, but I didn't measure the stalls or measure the turnaround so the wheelchair, you've done all that stuff, the radiuses and,
well, yeah, basically what we're going to do is make it into a one stall bathroom.
yeah. Okay. Okay, is there a motion?
I move we authorize the librarian to spend up to $1,500 for the modification of the bathroom to ADA.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
I, actually, do we have to identify the source, or is that already done at town meeting?
I think that's coming out of the 20, or
It's coming out
at
of
least
the-
some of it is, right?
Right.
Yes, that's the point we're going to have to start, and I assume that the maintenance man is coming out of the 20.
Yeah, and the payment to Chuck for the plans for the fire marshal had to come out of the 22, so that was $500. So, I mean, obviously, we're gonna spend some of that, hopefully, hopefully not a lot of it.
Aye.
Okay, John, aye, okay. Good. Is there any way we could, is a little bit complicated, Terry, is it gonna be the end of the world if we table this to the 14th?
What?
Personnel policy.
Oh, no, no.
You
Okay,
know that's 8 o'clock, not 9 o'clock.
I know,
Oh, okay.
we've been here since 5. .30 and
I know.
I had a, so, okay, so is there a motion to table out?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John, aye. Okay, correspondence, email from Sue Snow concerning flooding on Route 73. Does the board want to respond to that, or? I responded to her in personal sense. I invited her to come tonight. She isn't here. I don't know that we need to respond to her, but if you guys feel the board should. I do. Yeah?
Yeah, I thought your response was appropriate. And
I didn't
adequate.
respond for the board though. So just want to make that clear. Okay, same thing from Sharon, Sets. I assume it's the same deal?
Same.
Okay. We got the letter from RJD Appraisals, our assessors agents, indicating their
Can you hear me,
rate
John?
is going to
Hey, Penny, can you hear me? Hey, John, I show you as muted.
Okay,
Okay, got you back now.
Bye, Ruth.
Okay, did you hear, Jeff?
I can hear you now.
I skipped the ACO resignation, and Walter made a motion to accept with regret.
Second,
Discussion? Terry, I assume we'll put a notice on the website, send it on the email list and get no applicants.
Yep.
And anybody who can talk it up, that would be great. Okay,
Jeff, I.
Walter?
Aye.
John? Aye. And then also, before we slip into, we had Phil's request for buyout or payment in lieu of insurance. I'd like to take that up in executive session, and we might come back out to that. And then we had tennis court grant. We got the documents, we got the grant. The only thing I think we need to do tonight, I read it over, is we need to formalize changing Owen Casas as the town administrator and the person who can execute the documents to Terry Baines. So I would accept a motion to that.
Oh, so moved.
Okay. Jeff?
Second,
The document now says Owen Casas, and he says he knows we need to update that, so. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Okay. Walter? Aye. John, aye. And then, Terry, you had an issue about the flag at the landing.
John Paquette sent me an email saying that the flag was ratty and it used to go up and down morning and night, and it doesn't anymore. And if it's going to be up, it needs to have a light. So I asked Amy about it, and she said Owen had put a light there. And so today on my way home, I checked, and there is a solar light there, but it doesn't appear to be working correctly. I pushed the button and it came on, but it doesn't stay on. And it's, I mean, even when it was on, when you step away from it, it doesn't look like there's any light. I don't know if we just need to replace that, go back to having the per diems put it up in the morning, take it down at night, or not do anything.
Well, I don't think we can keep the ratty flag up there with
No,
no light on it. I mean, can we get it down?
it's, yeah, they took the flag down.
Who
There's
did?
no flag there
Who
right
took it down?
now. I would assume Amy had one of the crew do it.
Okay. Thoughts? Jeff, you got any thoughts? You're a flag man.
Getting a spotlight is not that difficult. They've got some that are solar powered that are adequate. That's what I've got on mine.
That's what we have now.
There's one there, it just doesn't seem to be working correctly. It doesn't stay on and it's not very bright.
Yeah, hardly any of them are that bright, unless you get the ones that are actually pole mounted. But all it needs to do is illuminate the flag portion of it. But the solar ones they only have a couple year lifespan on them, so you got to replace them every couple of years.
So does anyone know why we got away for years? The ambulance folks put it up and down each morning and each evening. Does anybody know why we got away from that?
Because they didn't like going through the snow and the cold to do it, and the rain.
Oh.
And I do know that the last flag replaced was after they bought the light, which is a small, very small little light. The flag was again in disrepair, and then Dean Reed bought the flag and put it up. And if you leave a flag up, they're not going to last very long here on the coast in Maine.
Yeah.
There's too much wind. It's like the veterans flags. After a summer in the cemetery, those flags are worn.
Well, that's why I was wondering why we have it up at night, because it seems to me that that puts it up twice as long and wears it out twice as quick, if I do my flag map correctly. But, do we, let me ask a forbidden question, do we even need a flag there?
Right.
It's the Memorial Park.
Oh, okay, so it's not really at the landing.
No, it's in the Memorial Park,
Okay, never mind then, I'll retract my question.
adjacent to the landing.
Yeah, I'll retract my question. I thought it was in the landing.
I didn't know that was a Memorial Park.
Yeah, actually, I did, now the second she mentioned it. Well, could you talk to Amy about going back to putting it up and down?
Yes.
Does that sound like the most reasonable solution?
Absolutely.
The only reason, if the only reason is because they didn't like doing it. That's not a good one for me.
I will order a new flag.
Yeah. And if that's a big issue, then we'll have to look into it, I guess. Okay, that's enough for tonight, Terry, on that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, where are we? All right, schedule future meetings. Everybody know where we're at so far? I don't.
I think the last ones you did were January.
I think we're good through January, right?
Yep.
Can we leave it at that for tonight?
January 4th and the 18th,
And then we have two in December, right?
right?
So what are we in December? We're the 14th and the 4th, no, the 28th. 28th. And then we have one on the 4th and the January and the 18th, correct? Why don't we leave it at that for tonight? Given it's late, we've got some stuff to take care of. Anything else before we consider a motion to go into executive session?
You want to, end the YouTube?
I think we have to, right?
Who's that extra Zoom person?
Oh, all of a sudden Amy is back.
No, oh, that's Amy.
Oh, no, that's the YouTube picture, that's showing up behind. So,
Okay, well, don't kill it yet. Is
no,
there,
I'm going to restore this.
yeah, we'll make a motion to,
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA, section 4056A, to discuss personnel matters.
Second,
discussion. All those in favor, Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. Okay, now you can, that was at what time? You
8:37.
need to record that, right?